This is your comic main man, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the early appearances and origin of Venom.
It's interesting looking into the character of Venom, because in order to truly understand Venom, I think he's the only character that we have to look into his costume before we analyze the character.
That's very true. His first appearance was Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8 in 1984, where he first appeared as a liquid that Peter Parker touched on Battleworld, which later became the symbiote known as Venom.
So that would be the historical first appearance. Kavora, what do you think about the Secret War issues, especially with that symbiote?
Well, at first we didn't know it was a symbiote. He just put on He put on the costume thinking that it was supposed to be like to sew up the ribs in his regular costume, right?
Yeah, his red and blue costume. Peter Parker's red and blue costume. Yes,
and so then he puts on this new costume, and he doesn't know yet that it's a symbiote or anything, and it was just something that he put on, right? We don't know at first what it's going to become.
Yeah, so early on, that's all it was primarily an alien costume change.
We had no sense of that it was a symbiote until he returned to Earth, and that he was having nightmares, and that he constantly was basically sleepwalking, but the symbiote was controlling him at night, and that's when he visited the Fantastic Four, specifically Reed Richards, and Reed Richards determined that the costume was actually alive. And then they removed the costume, and they put the symbiote into a containment unit, and then the last panel of Spider-Man 257 shows the costume is mighty pissed at being restrained.
Kavor, what do you think about those issues as the costume was developing and Spider-Man started wearing the black costume in the mid-'80s?
It was an interesting story. We have the costume became attached to Peter Parker because it was supposed to be a symbiotic relationship, and it was living off him, but in some ways I saw it as a bromance when you look back at it. It was sort of almost a love relationship. The costume wanted Peter Parker, and it didn't like being separated from him. Of course, I mean, it needed some type of body, but it became attached to him and wanted him especially.
So for about 4 years, we're reading Spider-Man comics with Spider-Man swinging around in a black and white costume. And then, what was it? Speak up. Then speak up. Correct me.
That's not true. That actually, it was only for about 7 months. They're separated, and then Spider-Man returns to the red. He goes back to he gets the black costume, but it's actually minus the symbiote. And then we don't see the symbiote again until Amazing Spider-Man 298, when he starts sneaking in. He's creeping up, and then we find out in issue 300 that he actually finds journalist Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock is someone who was a rival photographer / beat writer at the Daily Bugle, and he gets fired. He blames Peter Parker, so he's got a grudge against Peter Parker, and the Venom symbiote is naturally attracted to him because he's pissed off too, and that's when they bond, and that's when we see the Venom symbiote in 300. But we also determine at the end of 300 that the symbiote still has lingering feelings for Peter Parker, because the symbiote wants to graft back onto Peter Parker, but Peter Parker's like, he kicked her to the curb. He doesn't want any part of it.
So what was your first reaction seeing Venom?
Well, I mean, it's Atomic Fallen art for starters. I mean, he just makes everything look good. I thought Venom was pretty cool, but the subsequent stories, they build the character. The first time I saw him, I was like, you know what, it's a one-off. But they apparently it was more like a 25,000 off, because we saw Venom more and more and more, and he became one of the crucial characters actually in the early 90s.
Yeah, I remember buying that issue from the Nostalgia Shop in Hamden, Connecticut, and I had Amazing Spider-Man in my whole box, and I was especially excited during that era, 298, 299, 300, when Todd McFarlane picked up the art, because he was, previous to that, he was a Hulk artist, and just the way he drew Venom made him just so exciting that there was a new villain coming out. But I never would expect that Venom would be that popular.
No, not really. I mean, obviously, it's like anything else. It's honestly like pop radio. The more you see him, the more you play it, the more popular it becomes. But we didn't see Venom again until issue 315, and that's when it's actually an issue about Spider-Man and Hydro Man, but it has like a little blurb that's on the cover of it saying, "Guess who's back?" And then it was Venom. And after that, I don't think we see Venom again until, I don't know, like 30 more issues.
Venom ended up having his own miniseries, too.
He did, Lethal Protector. And Lethal Protector actually is loosely based on what the movie's loosely based on Lethal Protector. But when we do see Venom again later in Amazing Spider-Man, it's when he brings Carnage into the fold.
What was your viewpoint of Venom, especially those McFarlane issues, Gavora?
Venom became much more interesting after he bonded with Brock and then became a true villain. He was someone who didn't like, now all of a sudden he doesn't like Peter Parker. I mean, he had already been mad at Peter Parker for rejecting him, and so now he bonds with this man who also has a hatred for Peter. And the way they carried out the villainy, the way his costume looked, the way that, and I love the way he could have that the villainous face with the big mouth and the teeth and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was almost like his jaw was opening up wider than it naturally should.
And the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he looked much more menacing that way and inhuman.
And you see he was also stronger than Peter Parker also, because the symbiote actually, it just amplifies the user's strength versus Peter Parker's, basically a 160-pounder, and Eddie Brock was a bodybuilder. So therefore he's stronger than Spider-Man is. And he can overpower him pretty easily. Like, you can see Spider-Man face-to-face was not a match for Venom at all.
Did the strength come from the suit or from Eddie Brock?
It comes from the user, but the symbiote amplifies whatever the strength is of the person it grafts to.
Okay, so it made him even stronger then.
Right.
Okay.
So how do you think the character has developed since we see how it originally was a costume, a symbiote, and then it went to Eddie Brock, which became a Spider-Man villain. How do we see the character has developed in the past 20 years?
It's all right. I mean, there's like a backstory to it now, where we see Venom. Venom was actually like almost an outcast from the planet he's from, where there are like that millions of symbiotes. It's like anything else. It's kind of like they just keep developing the story. And I actually kind of like the fact that it was kind of mysterious at the beginning, and we really didn't know too much about him. But now we know really anything about him. We know that he used to be a postman on his... Well, actually, that's not true. But, we're just saying that he's... It's like anything else. It's kind of like... It's like Wolverine. I liked Wolverine a whole lot better when I knew less about Wolverine versus now. We know... Really, everything.
Much.
Yes, there was way too much backstory.
Well, that's why we like the classic era of comics better.
Well, yeah, and then just due to the fact that if something's popular, then obviously they're going to exploit it and commercialize it.
Oh, the milking machine has been going on for Venom.
yeah, big time. So I don't know. I mean, I thought the movie was pretty good. I thought they did a pretty good. It was entertaining. Now, is it really true to the comics? Absolutely not. But it's pretty entertaining, and it shows you exactly what it would, or a pretty good idea of what it would look like if someone were, if they were bonded to the suit.
What do you think about the holding power of the Venom character? The early issues that we're discussing about Marvel Secret Wars #8. Spider-Man 257, Amazing Spider-Man 299, 300,
They'll always have a place.
Yeah, the Venom character has endured so much. I mean, that's why they just made the movie. So yeah, he kept coming back because the readers always loved him. He was a great character.
Though he'll always have a place. I mean, especially those issues. Those back issues are always hot. They always sell, no matter what. I mean, he's just an extremely popular character, and now he's an integral character of the Spider-Man universe.
Awesome. Well, great overview of Venom.
Thank you. It was fun discussing it.
We can stop it.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.